Good morning, class. My name is Lauren, and today we're going to talk about hearing impairment in the health and PE classroom. I'm going to share with you how we as physical education teachers can give our hearing impaired students the best opportunities to meet health and PE standards in Pennsylvania and national health and PE standards, as well as give them the most opportunities in class, similar to what we're able to give non-hearing impaired students. So here comes my presentation. Let's get started. Briefly, let me just go over what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about characteristics typical to students who are hearing impaired, so you can identify them. We're going to talk about challenges that we as physical education teachers might encounter as we seek to meet their needs. We're going to talk about the strategies we can apply to our teaching to help our students who are hearing impaired. And then I'm going to give my class a critical thinking question as a way that you can think about how you can apply your learning to your gym or health room. I'm starting my timer because I've recorded this presentation about 6 times and every time I go well over the 10 minutes. So now I'm putting on a timer and hopefully I could get this in 10 minutes. Okay, anyway, probably just lost 30 seconds there, but let's go. Okay, causes of deafness. There are different causes of hearing impairment. One is when something is in the ear canal blocking the sound from getting to the eardrum. It could be fluid, it could be an object, it could be a non-cancerous tumor. Those causes of hearing loss are relievable. Then there's another type of hearing loss, which is called sensorineural. That can happen at birth or that can happen later in childhood. If it happens at birth, it's due to genetics or low birth weight, premature birth, or an infection the mother had. And if it's acquired sensorineural hearing loss, that could be due to a head trauma, an infection, loud noise exposure, and the like. So just like a brief background of how deafness can happen. And then I just thought we would begin with a nice quote because we are all about inclusive education and focusing on what our students can do, not focusing on what they can't do. Deaf people can do anything except hear. Let's focus on their strengths and not their weaknesses. And they do have a lot of strength. So here's some common characteristics of students who are hearing impaired. They might have difficult following verbal expression because they can't hear it well. They might have social emotional issues. They might feel like they can't understand their other students. They can't connect with other people. So that might lead to isolation and feelings of low self-concept. Physically, you can see hearing aids or cochlear implants. Some challenges that they may face. They might be slow to develop their vocabulary. Also, it depends on when did they acquire their hearing impairment. Did any language have time to develop? Have they ever heard their own voice? So there's like a wide range of abilities there, depending on when it happened. They might have difficulty speaking for that reason if they've never heard their own voice or anyone else's voice. And some strengths. You know how they say that if you lose a sense, your other senses have to become stronger because you use them more. Well, students with hearing impairment are really good at picking up on facial expressions, reading lips. They have amazing memory skills. They develop their strengths in other ways. Okay, now the part that we've all been waiting for, the health and phys ed part. Okay, so there's Pennsylvania health and PE standards and national standards that it's our responsibility to get our students to meet these, no matter their ability. So we're going to talk about ways that we as teachers can help our hearing impaired students get there. So I didn't want to list them all and make you bored on my presentation. I wasn't going to read them all to you. You know where to look for these online. You could just Google it, but I briefly listed some of them. Concepts of health, healthful living, safety and injury prevention, and there's subcategories within all of these, depending on what grade you're looking at. I'm mainly focusing on 6th grade because that's where I want a student teach in 6th grade and hopefully become a middle school PE teacher. But anyway, so when I was doing this presentation, I was thinking like 6th grade. How would I adapt a 6th grade curriculum and lesson for my students who are hearing impaired? Anyways, so under concepts of health, there's a food pyramid, there's drug education, diseases that we're going to teach them about growth and development. Under healthful living, there's hygiene, how to stay safe in your environment, safety and injury prevention. There is violence, emergencies, stuff we're going to teach them. So that's like all in the health classroom. Then in the gym, there's physical activity and concepts, principles, and strategy of movement. This is all the physical stuff. Sports, skills, like body concepts. How do we help our hearing impaired students reach all these standards? And then there's the national health and PE standards. You can read this beautiful poster that I have here. I'm not going to read it to you guys. We can give our hearing impaired students the same opportunities. So how do we do that? Here are some of my ideas. Educational practices to support PE students in the health and PE classroom. So when you're speaking, so like in the gym or in the health classroom, always be at the front. Don't take for granted that you could be looking at the board, writing on the board, and everyone's listening. They may be listening, but they might also need to read your lips. So make sure that you're facing the students at all times when giving instruction. Another important thing is if you turn the lights off in your classroom, be mindful that there might be students in there that need to read your lips, and that's making it really difficult for them. Have your hearing impaired students sit at the front of the room. That's a good idea as well. Use an FM system. So if your student has a device that you wear and they have a hearing aid, the FM system blocks out unnecessary background noise. If you look up on YouTube, they give you examples of what it sounds like to have a hearing aid with an FM system in use and what it sounds like without. It's a huge difference. So if a student hands you that, wear it and make sure you don't keep it on mute. That would not be helpful. Okay, use gestures, visuals, posters. This would be beneficial to all students. Not all students are just going to learn and absorb information spoken from your mouth. You need to show visuals, posters, pictures, diagrams, tables, fun stuff like that gets their attention and also supports their learning, so they're not just depending on you speaking to learn. So like, for example, in the gym, posters with exercises, posters depicting the muscle groups, food pyramid posters in your health room. Lots of visual stuff goes a long way. And if you ever use video in your classroom, be sure your video is captioned. That's something we don't always think about. And also be patient with your hearing impaired students. If they have to read as you speak and take notes, they might need a little more time to process than students that are just absorbing information through their ears. Be patient with your hearing impaired students. Demonstrate, don't just talk. Okay, so in the gym, if you are teaching a skill, show it step by step, have other students demonstrate everything. Let the hearing impaired students see it all. Use gestures when you talk. Really get creative. I'm just checking my timer. I don't want to go over 10 minutes. Okay, and vocabulary. This is an important one, something we don't always think about. Watch the use of complex language when you're giving lessons. And if you are using complex language, make sure you define it. Some students, depending on when they lost their hearing, might have lost it before acquiring this vocabulary and language development. So just be mindful of that. And again, I think that would benefit all your students to go through things in a more thorough way and don't just assume everyone knows the vocabulary. So like, for example, when you are going through your drug education unit or speaking on infectious diseases or the body system, make sure you define all your words. Just take it easy on them. They just might have never gotten to that point. Okay, so I'm not going to take time to play these now, but you can always YouTube it. YouTube has an extensive collection of adapted PE examples for all disabilities, hearing impaired. There's videos on there. You could also listen to what it sounds like to have an FM system in use. Whoops, not going to play these. My timer's running out. I gotta hurry.
Today,
okay, and then we have additional examples. Just Google it. PE for students with hearing impairment. There's so many resources out there. It's important to remember the whole person, not just their ears. Again, focus on their strengths and what they bring to the table, not just what they can't do. And lastly, critical thinking question for my fellow PE teachers. Okay, so say you're teaching a basketball, dribbling, my favorite lesson, to sixth grade class. Stop and think all the ways you can adapt your lesson for hearing impaired student. So for example, what would you do? It's your first day of the lesson and you have an anticipatory set. Are you playing a video during that anticipatory set? Do you have captions on that video? Do you have posters around your gym? Do you have key vocabulary words on posters? What are you doing to make sure that that entire lesson is adaptable for a hearing impaired student? You want to include everyone. You don't want that student to feel left out or at a disadvantage. All right, my friends, so thank you all for listening to my presentation. I hope you found it informative. If you're interested, I grouped all my references by subject matter, so you can check those out. And I hope that you learned something today that you can bring to your PE classroom in the future. Take care and have a great day. Bye.